All right. Oh, looks like Austin joined. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our session today on mastering data readiness, busting data silos to fuel AI-powered experiences. Just real quick, few housekeeping items. Yes, we will be recording this session. Will be time for questions and answers at the end, and feel free to use the chat to ask any questions that you have as we move through the session. So my name is Adam Babcock. I'm a solutions architect here at Sercante. I've been working in the marketing cloud space for the past 14 or so years. And recently have been, working on data cloud projects and marketing cloud personalization, and really focusing on data and how we can use that. My colleague Austin was supposed to be speaking with me. He's having some computer issues, so I'm not actually sure if he is on the call. Austin, are you here?
Hey, Adam, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent. Joining from my phone.
All right. You want to give a quick intro?
Sure, yeah. Hey, everyone. Glad to be here. My name is Austin Frink. I'm also a solutions architect at Sercante. I've been an enterprise cloud architect and a full stack web developer for about 15 years now. And in the last several years, I've been involved primarily in marketing cloud personalization and Salesforce data cloud. So very heavy on the data structures and interoperability side of things.
Awesome. Thank you, Austin. So just real quick on the agenda for today, we're going to start off by discussing why data readiness is crucial in today's business environment. And then we're going to move into some best practices in data management, how to break down those data silos, and some considerations for working with different data models. And then we'll wrap up with some tips on optimizing your data for AI-powered experiences, and then open it up to you guys for some questions if you have any. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So importance of data readiness. I'm sure it's no surprise to you guys to hear that customers are expecting customized experiences and personalized experiences. 80% of frequent shoppers state that they only buy from brands that offer this type of personalized interaction. 76% of customers become frustrated when personalization doesn't occur. So it's really important to highlight that this critical need for brands and how you can, it's important that they meet these expectations to maintain that customer satisfaction. So why aren't more brands doing this? Well, data silos. With data silos, having incomplete and inconsistent data presents a challenge of being able to meet those customer expectations. According to Dynamic Yield, only 6% of companies are able to consolidate data into a single view of the customer, which is essential for this effective personalization. Oops, sorry. Even when a centralized data source exists, 70% of customer service leaders state challenges still exist due to that data consistency and completeness. So to overcome this challenge, getting your data ready and in order is key. It's also the cornerstone of taking advantage of AI to deliver personalized experiences. 55% of businesses are reporting to use AI to enhance customer engagement, which demonstrates the growing reliance on AI-powered solutions for delivering these personalized customer experiences. So just to kind of sum up the importance of data readiness, personalized, seamless customer experiences are no longer a nice to have. They are an expectation. But achieving this at scale isn't easy, especially when your data is siloed, incomplete, or just inconsistent. Without proper data readiness, it's nearly impossible to deliver the tailored experiences your customers demand. So today in this webinar, our goal is to help you understand how to prepare your data so that you can fully leverage AI to meet these expectations and outperform your competitors. Your customers expect personalized, seamless interactions at every touch point. This is only possible if your data is clean, unified, and ready to power AI solutions like predictive and generative models. Without proper data readiness, it's not going to happen. So, what are some of those best practices for data management? Good data management is the foundation of data readiness, and we like to group it into 3 different buckets: data quality, data governance, and security and privacy. This means that ensuring your data is accurate, complete, and consistent. Implement strong data governance to establish those clear policies and procedures for your data. And of course, don't forget about that data security piece. And privacy. These are critical in maintaining the trust and compliance with your customers. But for the purposes of today's discussion, we're really going to deep down into the data quality piece, as we feel this is the most crucial step in getting your data ready to use for AI experiences. So when it comes to getting your data ready, data quality should be a key focus and should consider these 3 lenses: accuracy, completeness, and consistency. When looking at your data, we've put a couple key questions that you can kind of ask yourself here. Do you know of any questionable data sources or data you know is not reliable? What data is incomplete? Are there common manual data entry points that you're aware of that are not consistently filled out or validated? Are there any scenarios or processes that alter the state of the data, overwrite them, or are there just issues where there's concern for consistency? And then finally, what about potential situations that might introduce duplicates? Now we're going to look at some actionable items that you can do to improve your data quality across those 3 lenses we just discussed. So when it comes to data quality and accuracy, set up automated checks during data entry or data integration processes to ensure that the data conforms to those expected formats, ranges, types. For instance, email addresses should follow a specific pattern and dates should be within logical ranges. You should also conduct regular audits to identify and correct errors. This involves cross-referencing data against trusted sources, spot checking records, and using tools that highlight those discrepancies. And then employ tools designed to clean and standardize your data. These tools can remove duplicates, correct spellings, and fill in missing values based on established patterns. For completeness, clearly identify which fields are mandatory and ensure they are filled out during data entry. If you're missing that critical information like customer contact details, it can reduce the effectiveness of data-driven decisions. Make sure you combine data from various sources to create a more complete data set. For instance, integrating your CRM data with customer support records can provide a more holistic view of those customer interactions. And then set up systems to flag incomplete records and generate reports to track where and why that data might be missing. This will help you in correcting actions promptly and improving that data quality. And then finally, for data consistency, standardize your data format. establish standard formats for dates, names, addresses, and other fields across all of data entry points. That'll help minimize inconsistencies when data from different sources is merged together. Use a master data management system, implementing MDM practices to ensure that key data elements are consistent across the organization. MDMs help maintain a single version of truth for critical data, such as customer profiles. And then synchronization of data across systems, ensuring that data is synchronized in real time or near real time across different systems. This will reduce the chance for conflicting information existing in different parts of the organization. So I'm going to hand it over to Austin next to talk about how we can bust down some of those data silos.
Yeah, sure. So when thinking about personalization and thinking about AI and leveraging the latest and greatest in that space, a big component of that is readying the data, and the data generally at many organizations lives across multiple different applications and across multiple different teams. So the big effort on the front end would be to bust those data silos. So the first step here is, first of all, to know where the data is, identify those silos, take an inventory of the relevant applications where your data lives, and also an inventory of the relevant stakeholders who control access to that data and who have an interest in that data. Secondly, identify those kind of corresponding tools and technologies that where the data lives, and also the tools and technologies that you would use to maybe store the data in a central repository or just to migrate the data. So like middleware applications like MuleSoft or other API management tools. I'm thinking about creating that unified view that will make better personalization possible moving into the future, some of which is AI related and some of which is rules based. And then collaboration, of course, being key for all of this, because this is a cross-functional effort across the organization where we're taking, all of the related stakeholders and putting a cross-functional team together to help identify and migrate the data into a central repository. Yep. So as I said before, identifying the silos. You're going to want to catalog all the data sources across the organization and identify where the data is stored, who owns it, and how it's used. The purpose is to gain an understanding of the landscape of existing data silos, which is crucial for planning integration efforts. Yep. And you want to develop a unified data strategy across the organization. So developing a comprehensive data strategy that aligns with the business objectives of the relevant stakeholders. That includes a plan for data integration, governance, and security of the data. And a unified strategy ensures that all teams work towards common goals, reducing the chances of siloed data practices. Yep. And so this is what it kind of can look like when you think about centralizing the data. What tools and technologies can be of service here towards this goal? So obviously, every organization is different. You're going to have a different application portfolio where the data is stored, and different types of business cases for that data that lives across those data silos. But ultimately, CDPs, which is a category of tool rather than just a specific platform. And there are a number of different CDPs out there in that software space. But utilizing a CDP and tools that have CDP-like features can help to consolidate that data into one central repository and help to automate the process of bringing together all of that siloed data into one place so that you're ensuring the consistency and accessibility of the data. Yep. And in addition to CDP, and sort of similar to CDP, is MDM. So this is more of a methodology than a specific tool itself. And you can implement a master data management solution to create a single consistent view of the key business entities like customers, products, and locations in an organization to gain an understanding of the landscape of existing data silos, which is crucial for planning integration efforts. Yep. And to collaboration, it's crucial on the front end of any of these like data consolidation projects that make AI and personalization possible to establish cross-functional teams that have a shared interest in the consolidation effort, in identifying the data silos and granting the requisite access such that you can create the central repository. And the teams can include members from IT, data management, and business units that work together on data initiatives. The goal, of course, being to break down barriers between departments, ensuring that data is shared and utilized across the organization. Yep. So to recap here, we want to identify our data silos and recognize where the data exists and where it's fragmented. We want to leverage the data integration platforms that'll make this possible to create a single source of truth for the customer data. And we want to foster cross-departmental communication and data sharing. Yeah, and all this is enabled by establishing a common data model, which is kind of the purpose of a CDP platform. We want to first understand the key business entities that exist in the organization. So key business entities, meaning things like customers, products, orders, contracts, clicks, views, different types of engagement data. These exist as physical data in different systems, but may be shaped in different ways depending on the specific data model of the different system that you're looking at. So in an email engagement platform, a customer may be represented, a product may be represented in a product catalog. Those same customers and products might be represented in a different application, in a different shape, a different data model. So it's important to take kind of a step upward and think of it in terms of business entities first. What is it that we're actually talking about conceptually, and then hunt down the data that represents those business entities in the different systems. And what are the use cases? Like how can we leverage that centralized data, looking into the future, where we're talking about establishing a common data model, leveraging all of these different business entities that we've identified? What's the goal? And in taking an inventory of phase one use cases is crucial. And we want to make sure that the data is consistent across the different models and different applications. So there could be a data cleaning effort that goes on the front end of this as well. Maybe some of the data needs to be normalized such that our common data model has clean data. And we want to take a technology agnostic approach, choose the need, decide on the needs of the business prior to deciding on the technology. There, of course, are multiple different types of CDPs, multiple types of MDMs, and there's generally always a handful of options in terms of the technology you can use to solve a problem.
All right. Thanks, Austin.
Yeah, sure thing.
So, I think you're also, that's good. I'm going to talk a little bit about optimizing that data for AI-powered experiences. So now that we've prepared our data, we put in some best practices, it's time to use that data for AI. And how can we take advantage of it for predictive and generative models? So first off, ensuring that you have enough volume and from multiple different sources is necessary for AI models. Just like in statistics, you really need that large, ample amount of data for the models to learn off of. So making sure data volume and there's diversity of data is really important. And then properly labeling that data is essential for training accurate predictive models, especially in applications like customer segmentation or things like sentiment analysis. Labeling or categorization is really important for those models to learn and train properly. And then for generative models, you'll want to augment your data set by creating variations of existing data to improve the robustness and generalization. So this is really useful in image, text, or speech data to increase the training data set size. And then you also want to analyze your data for potential biases and make sure you're taking steps to mitigate them. So this includes ensuring diversity in the data and balancing the representation of different classes or groups. According to research from MIT, addressing biases in training data is critical to building fair and unbiased AI models. Some platforms, including ones like Salesforce Data Cloud, are offering tips or warnings of where that bias may be introduced when you create segments. So that's really, really powerful and helpful along the way. And then data splitting, splitting your data set into training, validation, and test sets to evaluate the model's performance and prevent overfitting is really important. Typically 70 to 80% of the data is used for training, with the remainder split between validation and testing. Best practices from platforms like AWS recommend this approach to ensure the model generalizes well to new data. And then lastly, monitoring. So continuously monitoring the data inputs and outputs to ensure the model remains accurate over time is essential. There is still a human element involved in it, and it's really important. So AI can do a lot of really cool, great things, but it still needs us there to help get it where it needs to be. So just to kind of wrap things up, we've seen how crucial data readiness is in enabling AI to deliver the personalized experiences that customers expect today. Like we said early on, it's not a nice thing to have anymore. It's a must-have. And by following the best practices in data management, breaking down those data silos, and understanding how to work with different data models, you're setting yourself up for success. So our call to action for you guys to take away from this is to really begin your data readiness journey today. The sooner you start to optimize the data, the quicker you're going to see the benefits and be able to use it for AI-powered experiences within your business. So thank you guys for your attention and for attending. We truly appreciate it. We definitely have some time left, so we want to open up the floor to any questions you may have, whether that be specific challenges you guys are facing or just more general questions about data readiness or AI. We're here to help, and let's have a discussion. All right. Okay, so it looks like we have one question in the chat. If teams don't have a data strategy defined today, how can they get started? That's a great question. Austin, do you want to kind of roll with this one?
Sure. I think that, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So I think that the first step would be to identify that cross-functional team, like who can be the champions of building the data strategy. That would be step one. Then I would start thinking about the goals, like what are the shared goals of the organization? Obviously, every organization is different, but there may be some common ground, and it's best to probably start there because it is important to maintain that collaboration, as you will be dealing probably with multiple disparate sources of data. Those would be the first couple steps. And then from there, identifying those key business entities. And don't boil the ocean. That's another thing. Like, don't try to do everything all at once. Like, what is, it just starts with something that seems maybe kind of simple, isn't always that simple, but what is a customer in your organization? What is the customer hierarchy? Start having conversations about that and maybe try to define those things conceptually before diving into the data, or maybe in conjunction with diving into the data.
Yeah, that's great. And I think identifying that internal team of who's going to be involved, who's going to do different things is really important, and kind of ties into one of the next questions, which is what's the biggest barrier when it comes to getting your data ready that you see with customers? So one thing for me is really access to the data. How are you able to access the data, and how do you get it from one system to another? Creating that clear, unified customer view, you have to have data from different sources, but sometimes those sources are really troublesome to either get the data out of, or internally get the teams aligned so that everyone is using the data in the right way, or has access to the data they need. So that upfront strategy of making sure the right people are involved and talking about where our data lives, what systems have access to it, how can we open up that access to other systems and other people, is also really important, and can be a really big challenge up front for some customers.
Yeah, and I would add to that a really simple exercise for identifying the ways that you can get to the data is to just, once you have your inventory of applications where the data lives, just create a simple list of both the egress and ingress mechanisms that each of those platforms have. So does platform A have a REST API? What methods are exposed? Does it do like a batch output of a CSV file that you can drop in an SFTP folder? Just taking kind of making a list of each of the applications, I guess specifically egress would be most important for when you're talking about identifying those disparate data sources, those data silos, figuring out how do we get the data out, just like going back to what Adam says. But you can really simplify that on the front end by just making an inventory of the mechanisms that you feasibly could use based on the limitations and capabilities of the technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. We got another question. Austin, love to get your thoughts on this one, because I think it's gonna vary depending on client, but how long does it typically take to get your data in order?
Oh yeah, that definitely depends. Definitely depends. Yeah, because you may be dealing with I was on a project once that had 87 disparate systems, and there was a year and a half long discovery phase before any data moved from anywhere to anywhere. So, I mean, that's obviously like at one far end of the spectrum, and probably probably qualified as one of those cases where maybe they were trying to boil the ocean a little bit, and it would have been practical to break it down into more meaningful steps, short-term goals. So, but then on the other end of the spectrum, now you can do really cool stuff with omni-channel personalization, for example, just by taking a couple different systems. So maybe you have an email automation platform, and you have a CRM, and you have a website, like a content management system that has some kind of clicks and views engagement data. So it's 3 different source systems. So now if you can just say, okay, here are these 3 systems, and here is where we're going to put all this data into one, CDP platform. Now you can do omni-channel segmentation and create better user segments, customer segments, to do better advertising, have better, more specific, personalized touch points with the customers. Which I mean, that's like a very, very common initial use case and is probably a better place to start because you can always add more use cases and more business entities if you have more data.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely a tricky one to answer. I think obviously the size of the organization is going to play a factor in how long it takes. Bigger companies have more data, more sources. But to Austin's point, I think breaking it down into steps and figuring out, you know, what are the most important ones to start with will help you kind of truncate that process and make it a little quicker than if you try and do everything all at once, especially if you're a large organization. It looks like a follow-up question came in chat around just sort of getting teams aligned and the difficulty involved in that, and just wondering if we have any suggestions or tactics to approach this.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Austin. Sure,
I was just going to give a practical one. Like I've seen situations where it's tough to maybe get a couple important stakeholders kind of engaged in the conversation, or maybe they don't see the value, and you're just trying to kind of reach that buy-in. And I've found that one thing that tends to help a bit is facilitating live platform demos. I mean, that's not always going to be the thing, but for example, when I've been on data cloud projects before, a lot of it's very theoretical. And you're talking about all the capabilities and how cool it's going to be, do all these different cool use cases, how you're going to be able to use AI, you do advanced segmentation, all this. And slides really can only get people so motivated. And sometimes it's best if you can just facilitate some kind of demo, whether you have a live demo instance with some sandbox work that's been done. You can just kind of show me, don't tell me, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I think a lot of people respond more easily and kind of are quicker to understand the value, and you can actually see it for yourself. And normally vendors can facilitate really good. If within your organization you can just facilitate a vendor demo of an application, if you're not in a position to where you can do that yourself because you don't have a platform, you're shopping for a platform, demos are good.
Yeah, I think too, one thing I've seen success with is, especially when you're working with different parts of the organization, different teams, it's important to have identify like one member from each group who really is on board with the project,
Yeah.
can kind of act as that project cheerleader and motivate others within their part of the organization to come to the table and have the discussions and do the things that are needed. If it's just one or two people from other parts of the organization trying to get everyone else on board and involved, you're going to struggle much more than if you kind of have those project leads across the organization where it's really important, the teams that need to be involved, to bring everyone else in. Looks like something just popped in the chat. Okay, so to the point about defining the goals with your data strategy, what are some well-defined use cases for using a customer data platform? For example, I know we all want to do personalization, but personalization isn't exactly a specific outcome. So what are some good use cases for a CDP? I mean, Austin, you and I have chatted about this quite a bit. But really, I think when you think CDP, it's really important to think omni-channel, multiple data sources, and how you can bring those data sources together to get that clear view of your customer so that you can really start to create specific campaigns across all those that take factors across all those different channels into play. And then use that data to do some segmentation is really one of the main use cases we see for CDP, but it's not just segmentation from one source. It's segmentation based on attributes you're collecting across the spectrum of what your client or your customer is doing across those different channels that they interact with you with. But Austin, what are your thoughts on maybe some specific use cases for CDP?
Yeah, so thinking about omni-channel, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head there. Like CDP is best thought of as a tool for omni-channel segmentation and having an omni-channel view of customers. So, what does that even mean? So it's like, okay, we have an email automation platform. We're sending emails and we're getting click engagement data. We're getting opens. We're getting things of this nature that kind of indicate a customer's likelihood of conversion. And then we're also getting similar signals on the website, a separate channel, the web channel, as opposed to the email channel. And generally these aren't the same platform, but we're seeing those signals, and it kind of indicates their interest in a type of product or a type of content if it's not like an e-commerce website. But by putting both of those types of engagement data in CDP, now you can do activation out to either of those platforms for personalization based on narrower segments. So you'll create segments that have fewer members, because you'll create a segment like someone, I'll just kind of make up one on the fly here, but someone who has opened an email or clicked on a CTA in an email in the last 30 days and has also visited the website. And here's a couple of things that they clicked on. So you also know like what specific products they clicked on in the website. Well, that's like a lot better data in terms of being able to then personalize, because maybe you put like a content block in a follow-up email that is a direct link to the product or products they were actually looking at. Maybe then like tying it back into AI, maybe you take those kind of product affinity signals that they're sending you through the web channel when they're browsing your e-commerce site, and you feed it into a machine learning algorithm, and it spits out like, well, here are a bunch of other products in your product catalog that other people are buying currently when they're interested in this product or category of products. So you could have like a dynamic content block in your email that is fed by machine learning, because you were able to do all of this omni-channel data gathering into one place.
Yeah, and I was just about to touch on that AI piece of it too, right? Like you can use more than just what they're viewing or clicking on within the website when you're feeding that model, because you have more data on them. You have other sources that you're feeding. So you could also use their zip code and where they live and what region they're in and what climate it is at that time and things like that to come up with the AI recommendations more than, hey, I know they viewed this product. Other people also viewed this product. But maybe other people in the exact location that I'm in who are also males viewed this product, and this is the thing that they are interested in.
Yep. Yeah, and I think even more so, like as we look into the future, like obviously AI is just such a hot button topic right now. It's on so many people's minds, so many businesses' minds, and we've barely even begun to see how it's going to reshape the world and reshape the way that we work and the way we market to our customers and engage with our customers. And we're already seeing just wild paradigm shifts in the sphere of like content creation. You can use generative AI dynamically based on these signals to write your email, for example. And it might be a better email than you could have written on your own as a copywriter, or it can be your assistant for writing copy. Similarly, it could take all of this vast amount of customer data that you've got and output things like next best actions, like next best things to market to the customer. It can do you know, dynamic email cadence adjustments. So, you know, figuring out, you know, when is the exact right time to send the email. AI will be crucial in helping to optimize the cadence of email sends. And so, and these are all just like off the top of my head right now, and there's so many things that are coming that we probably can't even imagine yet. But one thing is definitely for sure, like kind of circling it back to the point of this webinar today, is none of it will be possible if your data isn't ready, because AI isn't magic. It's only as good as the data that it has access to.
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually a great intro to the last question, Austin. So like knowing how important data is and how important it is to be able to use AI. What's that like one lasting piece of advice you have for the audience on how to get started with getting your data ready? What's that? If there was only one thing someone walked away from here, what would you want it to be for them?
Wow, that's like a pretty big question, I guess, isn't it? Just one thing. Just one thing.
And like for me, maybe it's just the one thing that I really want you guys to understand and get across is that importance, right? That importance of data and how it relates to not just AI, but having a really good data strategy and being able to segment things like that. And to start having those conversations within your organization. A lot of people don't know how clean or not clean their data is if they're not involved with it day to day. And when you start to dig into it, you realize there's a lot of opportunities to improve the quality of your data, but you won't get there if you don't start having those conversations. So for me, it's really what I want you guys to walk away from here is like, who in the organization can I talk to about whether we're in a good spot from a data quality perspective? Are we ready to start using AI? If not, let's start having those conversations about where we need to go in order to make that happen. That's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I guess I could add that just a practical step, would be circling back to something we've kind of harped on a number of times today, but it is just the inventory of the data silos. So just start with an inventory of the data silos. Some organizations have, 10 or 20 or 30 different pieces or different data stores where customer data lives. Some may only have 2 or 3. Just get an inventory of those data silos and figure out what data lives there, and then start to ideate on, well, what can we do with the data that we have here if we start to move down the path of moving it into a customer data platform like Data Cloud.
Yeah. That's a good one. Definitely. What's the art of possibility of having access to all this data together?
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think that's all the questions that have come up in the chat. So again, thank you guys so much for your time. We will share the recording out with everyone. And if there are any other questions that come up afterward, feel free to send those along our way. But thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye, everyone.